A just-married couple start a new day of their South African honeymoon. By the end of it, the bride will be dead. Executed, it is alleged, on the orders of her husband. Just 2 weeks earlier, Annie Hindocha had married Shreen Dewani in a fairy tale 3-day ceremony.
I was very proud. She was so beautiful.
Annie's brutal honeymoon murder generated massive interest around the world. And one burning question: did Shreen have her killed?
I just got married to the girl of my dreams. Why would I want to kill her?
Now said to be a broken man and a suicide risk, the 32-year-old insists he is innocent. He's fighting a British court's decision to extradite him to South Africa. And his family demand Shreen must go.
If he's innocent, the court will show that. And if he's not, then he should pay for what he's done.
South African police and prosecutors have already made up their minds about Shreen's guilt.
This is a pure criminal matter of somebody that murdered his wife when he should have been celebrating a honeymoon.
But have they got it right? Should he ever be extradited, it won't just be Shreen Dewani in the dock.
South Africa will definitely be on trial. If justice fails, then it will give this country a bad impression.
For the first time, we're able to piece together key bits of the case using CCTV, never before shown, of the couple in their Cape Town hotel. The footage captures the moment Shreen is said to have commissioned Annie's murder. It shows Shreen and Annie just hours before she was killed. And the moment after her death, when the Bristol businessman is said to have paid off one of the hit team. Tonight on Panorama, is Shreen Dewani a man who could have his wife killed? And the new footage which suggests the case against him may not be as clear-cut as it's been portrayed. It was meant to be the beginning of a lifetime together, but it ended barely before it had started. The first day of Shreen and Annie's honeymoon, a luxury safari lodge in South Africa's Kruger National Park. Flying in overnight from the UK, they'd be married for just 9 days.
She struck me as an extremely beautiful woman. I was quite taken aback when I saw her beautiful, long, dark hair, and he seemed like a very decent man. They seemed like any other honeymoon couple that comes through here, very much in love and enjoying the bush. This is where the Dewanis stayed, our Malachite suite, suite number 4.
What went on in their relationship behind closed doors, only Shreen Dewani really knows, and we can't ask him. He is sectioned under the Mental Health Act. But we can hear Shreen Dewani's actual words. Before he was arrested in December 2010, the 32-year-old gave an interview about the events surrounding his wife's death. It was with the Sun newspaper and it was recorded. Panorama has obtained a copy. Was Shreen telling the truth? When he spoke just a week after Annie's death, there were already rumours that Shreen was behind her murder. This is what he had to say about the couple's time on safari.
It was very romantic and it was brilliant, to the extent that some of the other guests were saying we made them sick with our happiness.
Annie and Shreen were very comfortable around each other. They reminded Sharon and I of 2 really good mates getting married.
Chloe Speller was staying at Chitwa Chitwa with her friend Sharon Aylward.
They weren't overly affectionate towards each other, but we put it down to a cultural difference.
Annie, unlike her husband, had never been on safari before. Shreen says the couple had an amazing time. The Dewanis left their safari behind after 3 days, heading toward the next leg of their seemingly idyllic honeymoon.
She loved everything about life. She loved going out, she loved being at home, she loved to talk, she loved her friends, she loved her family.
Just a fortnight before Annie died, she married Shriyan in a spectacular 3-day ceremony in Mumbai, India. The wedding cost £150,000. The couple had known each other for a year and a half and been engaged for 5 months.
I was very proud. She was so beautiful.
Was it a very happy day for you?
Yeah, it was the most happiest day.
At their wedding, as they did on safari, the couple projected a picture of happiness. Yet Annie's family say their relationship was blighted by underlying tensions, illustrated, they say, by dozens of text messages which they've handed to South African police.
Now, we heard about one in which she says, "Crying is my new hobby," which suggests that she was not happy. Is that the impression you got?
That particular text message was not sent to myself. That was sent to a friend in India.
But it was sent?
Yes.
Things changed between the engagement and the wedding. They got more problems within the relationship. He was controlling, and I think that she didn't really like that.
3 weeks before the wedding, it looked to Annie's cousin as though the relationship was actually over.
Annie and Shriyan had a fight, and I found out because Annie called me in the middle of the night, crying in the phone, and she told me that she had threw the ring at Shriyan, and she took a cab to another hotel, and she stayed there the night, and at that point she was going to basically walk out of everything.
Annie's older sister convinced her it was just the stress of organising the wedding, persuading her to return to Shriyan.
I should have listened to her, because then maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Cape Town, almost 1,000 miles away from their safari lodge at Chitwa Chitwa. Shriyan and Annie landed here around 4 p.m. on Friday, November the 12th, 2010. 30 hours later, Annie would be dead, her body found in the back of an abandoned taxi.
Police in South Africa have begun a murder hunt after a woman on honeymoon.
Her body abandoned in the back of a taxi and a manhunt underway to find
the woman's 31-year-old husband was unharmed.
On Saturday night, the Dewanis made...
At first, it appeared Annie was yet another victim of South Africa's violent society. But then, an even darker and more extraordinary twist. A taxi driver Shriyan hired told police that within an hour of meeting the Bristol businessman, he had been contracted to fix Annie's execution. The taxi driver was offered a reduced sentence if he agreed to testify against Shriyan Dewani. The South African police chief was confident Shriyan, whom he reportedly dubbed a murdering monkey, was their man.
I am not a legal expert what to charge a person for, but what we know that he did partake in the killing of the wife.
I travelled to South Africa to test that confidence. In the late 1990s, I was based here as a BBC foreign correspondent. The couple, like me, would need a taxi to travel to our hotel, the 5-star Cape Grace. But unlike me, the Dewanis didn't choose the Cape Grace's plush but pricey airport shuttle service, or even the airport's cheaper official taxis. Shriyan opted instead for an illegal taxi tout he'd never met before. Zola Robert Tongo, 30 at the time, an unmarried father of 5, and by all accounts a hard-working taxi driver with no police record.
He spoke good English, he seemed trustworthy, the car seemed secure.
We've used this actor to read extracts from Tongo's evidence statement to the South African High Court.
I am in formal employment, but I also freelance as a shuttle operator from the Cape Town International Airport.
Tongo's freelancing was news to his boss, who had no idea his model employee was moonlighting.
When I bought the business, the current owner said to me that out of all the drivers, Robert is the most trustworthy, and I believed him. And during the time that he worked for me, there was also no reason for me to believe otherwise.
On the 20 or so minute journey to the Cape Grace, Shriyan says the couple got on well with Tongo.
He showed us around the sites that were there to see between the airport and the hotel. we became quite jovial with him.
If you've ever met Zola, he's a very, very nice guy. He's got a very open, friendly, easygoing personality. It wouldn't surprise me if he made a good impression.
Welcome to the Cape Grace Hotel. Please ensure you stay with us.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
The Cape Grace, sitting right in the heart of Cape Town's waterfront. The hotel boasts fabulous views of the iconic Table Mountain. With rooms starting at around £300 a night, it is one of the most expensive hotels in the city. This is Tongo and the Dewanis arriving at the Cape Grace. The honeymooners plan to stay here for 4 nights, leaving on the Tuesday. Panorama has obtained swathes of CCTV footage showing Shreen and Annie Dewani staying on their honeymoon in this hotel. The cameras track Annie from the moment she walks into the hotel to check in. This footage is a unique and revealing insight into the couple's relationship in the hours before she was killed. Until now, none of it has been seen publicly. Outside, Shreen is alone with Tongo for a shade over 5 minutes. According to South African police, the CCTV helps build the case against Shreen.
After we arrived at the hotel, Shreen Dewani approached me alone and asked me if I knew anyone that could have a client of his taken off the scene. After some discussion with him, I understood that he wanted someone, a woman, killed.
Shreen then leaves Tongo waiting for him in the hotel car park and checks himself in alongside Annie. Has Shreen simply hired Tongo as a honeymoon tour guide, as he says, or has he already taken the first step towards having Annie killed? Finishing up at the check-in desk, Shreen leaves Annie for another, longer meeting with the taxi driver. Annie is left to be shown to the couple's room by a member of the Cape Grace staff. So what did Shreen and Tongo talk about? If it was murder, Shreen was taking a huge risk. What's to stop Tongo going straight to the police? From my room at the Cape Grace, you can see the car park where Tongo and Shreen allegedly plotted the murder. But by this stage, they'd known each other for about an hour. They'd only been together alone for about 17 minutes. Now, is it really credible that in that short time, including the meeting down there, they can arrange a woman's murder? Well, South African police think it is, as do others.
It doesn't surprise me at all. I think very few things would surprise a criminal lawyer in South Africa.
Not every South African lawyer is convinced, though.
Surely any intelligent person wanting to appoint a hitman would look carefully at the person and wouldn't just engage them within half an hour. It just doesn't make sense.
Lake Vänern in central Sweden. Annie Hindocha was born in Mariestad, a town on its shores. Childhood holidays were spent on its beaches, and then last year her family came here to scatter Annie's ashes. So when you're here, you just think about your sister?
I do. I miss her, and I think that she's lying here and she shouldn't be here. She should have been alive. She should have been here, standing here with me.
Annie's death has devastated the Hindocha family.
Every single day is a nightmare for us. It's a big torture. I haven't been to work for 1 year now. I can't do that.
The family home in Mariestad, where Annie grew up. Here, the Hindocha family cannot grieve properly because of the question, as yet unanswered by a court. Was Annie killed on Shreen's orders?
We need so many answers. And one answer I need to know is what happened to her and why.
So do you come in here every day?
Yes, every day. I come in here and I light a candle.
Because this was her room?
I don't have guts to come here, not often. I did everything a father should do for a daughter. The only thing I could not do is to save her.
After Tongo's meeting with Shrien at the Cape Grace, the driver told police he drove away from the hotel to meet a man who played a crucial role in Annie's murder.
I went to a friend of mine to inquire whether he could assist me sourcing anyone prepared to carry out the killing as requested by Shrien Dewani.
Monde Umblombo, the so-called middleman and self-confessed link between Zola Tongo and the men said to be Annie's killers. Umblombo worked as a receptionist at this hotel. His detailed confession to his part in Annie's murder has never been heard in public before.
Somewhere between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., Zola came in and asked to speak to me in private. We went out and stood in front of the hotel, where Zola asked me if I knew anybody that was a hitman.
Right from the start, there are holes in his story. His timings must be wrong. The Dewanis didn't land at Cape Town until around 4 p.m. and didn't arrive at the Cape Grace until 12 minutes past 5. Yet in return for his evidence against Annie's killers, Monde Umblombo has been given complete immunity from prosecution if he is judged to have told the truth. According to Tongo, the pair discussed what their share would be for arranging Annie's murder.
Monde said he wanted 5,000 rand for organizing the hitman, and we should pay the hitman 10,000 rand.
At first I said I did not know anybody, but then I remembered Ziwama Doda Kwabe.
Kwabe, an unemployed 25-year-old, and the man alleged to have driven Annie to her death. Kwabe had been arrested for attempted murder in 2009, but the case was never properly investigated, so he remained a free man.
I was contacted by Monde, who told me that another man named Zola was looking for a hitman to murder somebody.
While plans for Annie's murder were allegedly underway, the Dewanis left the Cape Grace for a Friday night out. Just a short walk from their hotel, which is 50 yards back that way, is where they went out to dinner here on Cape Town's waterfront. They booked a table at 9 p.m. and it's just coming up to that time now. Thank you. Cheers, thank you. Their waitress says she remembers the Dewanis well.
They both were reserved, not your typical honeymoon table. I've served quite a few honeymoon tables and they normally very much love hugging, kissing. It wasn't really the case here.
The next time Clara Jane went to serve them, Shreen wasn't there.
I had noticed Annie was sitting alone and she told me that I should hold back the sushi because her husband had gone on a business call.
There may have been other business calls, but one of them was to Zola Tongo. Police have obtained phone records which reveal they spoke for 5 minutes and 26 seconds.
A lot of people commented about this man who was gone, leaving this lady on their honeymoon.
What did Shreen speak to Tongo about? Because he's currently sectioned in the UK, we can't ask him, and his family declined to take part in this programme. What is for certain, Shreen's recollection of that night doesn't tally with what the waitress told us.
We had an amazing evening on Friday night. Food, the environment, the drink, everything was just fantastic.
But if Shreen Dewani wanted his wife dead, what could possibly be the motive? Could it have been financial? And his family have never thought so. So what else?
There has come up a lot of stuff about his sexuality. Maybe that was the motivation.
That he might be gay?
Could be.
And that he got into something that he didn't want to be in?
Could be.
South African police seem sure. This UK-based male prostitute, Leopold Lyser, who advertises his services on the web, told them Shreen was a client, and that even before he got engaged, he told Lyser he needed to find a way out of the marriage.
Could he have felt trapped?
I don't know. There's nothing wrong with being gay. It's just that if you are, then why are you with a woman?
Panorama understands another alleged male sexual partner from Shreen Dewani's past contacted British police but declined to give a statement. But if there were other men, there was also a history of girlfriends. He had even been engaged before. This was not an arranged marriage. Shreen maintains Annie was the one.
I just got married to the girl of my dreams, and she actually was the girl of my dreams.
The day of Annie's murder. The couple rose late and headed to the Cape Grace restaurant for breakfast. It was 11:13 a.m. Despite claims about tensions in the couple's relationship, the CCTV pictures tell a different story that morning. After breakfast, the couple headed to the hotel's swimming pool. But Shreen didn't spend too long relaxing with Annie. After just 10 minutes, Shreen heads back to their room to change.
On Saturday, Shreen Dewani contacted me to meet him at the hotel.
Shreen is once again alone with Zola Tongo. They head into central Cape Town.
Shreen Dewani said he was willing to pay an amount of 15,000 rand. He said he had US dollars and could pay in US dollars.
But it's claimed the hitmen wanted paying in rand, so Shreen's US dollars needed changing. And Tongo knew a place where he could get a good exchange rate. According to police evidence, Shreen Dewani changed $1,500 on the black market here, worth about 10,500 rand. Add that to the 11,000 rand police believe Shreen had already cashed up on honeymoon, and it's more than enough for the hit. That is about £1,900. That's an awful lot of cash to be carrying around for the final 4 days of a honeymoon. But was it actually money for Annie's murder? The fact that Shreen changed money was not a secret. He told Annie's father.
Where are you? I asked him. Oh, I am in the town changing money. It was not a big issue for me at that time.
On the way back to the Cape Grace, Tongo insists that Shreen Dewani told him how he wanted Annie murdered.
We would make it appear as if we were the victims of a random armed hijacking of my motor vehicle committed with a firearm. For my assistance, I would be paid 5,000 rand.
They arrive back at the Cape Grace. Shreen has now been away from Annie for 55 minutes. He runs straight back to his room to change again. The Dewanis spent the afternoon at the pool. Shreen had organised for Tongo to collect the couple later that evening. While Shreen and Annie were relaxing, Tongo claims he was planning the murder. He came here, Khayelitsha Township, to meet the driver, Kwabe, and the man later accused of shooting Annie. Kolile Mungeni.
This picture here, it's my grandson, look very happy there.
26 years old, unemployed Mungeni lived with his grandmother here on this township plot.
His mother, she passed away in 1990. That time he was 5 years old. So I grew him up.
And it's been a struggle ever since, especially in a country where work is so scarce. More than half of those aged between 15 and 24 are unemployed.
Coming to my backyard in my house. And my grandson, he used to sleep here.
This shack is the reality for many young black South Africans. A reality just a few miles from the luxury of the Cape Grace. Wealthy tourists and poverty can be a dangerous mix in a country which has one of the highest murder rates in the world. And when they collide so publicly, tourists may stay away.
The South African authorities are paying so much attention to the Dewani case to show the rest of the world that they are doing something about crime in South Africa. That is a big factor in this case.
The reputation of our country affects us all. And we've been getting a lot of bad press. And very many South Africans are extremely upset about it.
Mungeni had been seen that morning, according to police, carrying a 9mm pistol.
I informed Kwabi and Mungeni that they would receive 15,000. Kwabi said that we had to leave the 15,000 rand in the cubby hole of the vehicle.
15,000 split between the hitmen, 5,000 rand for Tongo, 5,000 rand for Monde, the middleman, a total of 25,000 rand.
All these figures come from a statement agreed by Tongo when he was sentenced for his part in Annie's murder. And yet, the court also heard from Tongo that Shreen Dewani offered him just 15,000 rand. So, which is it? 15,000 or 25,000?
It is a massive inconsistency in Tongo's evidence, which has been accepted by the South African courts without challenge. Saturday night, the night of Annie's murder. At 6:17 p.m, Shreen Dewani emerges from the couple's room, ready to go out that night. Shortly afterwards, Annie joins him. In less than 6 hours, she will be dead.
I had arranged with Shreen Dewani that I would pick him up at the hotel at 19:30 in order to commence with the plan that we had agreed upon.
Is this a couple where the man has planned his wife's murder and she's going to die in the next few hours and he knows that?
The couple are making their way to the Cape Grace bar, where they pose for pictures, lots of them. According to Shreen, Annie loved to get people to take photos of the couple together. And if she didn't like the resulting picture, she could always persuade them to take another.
This is, in a way, the couple whose story has not been told in the accounts of these events so far.
That same evening, Annie spoke to her parents for the first time since the wedding.
She said, everything is fine, but I've got a lot to tell you, and I'll tell you when I'm back on Tuesday in London.
Vinod thought his daughter sounded muted and unhappy.
It wasn't her voice. It wasn't normal Annie. At that time I thought, strange, Annie's not talking to me properly. I found something is not okay.
But if Dad was concerned, Mum wasn't.
I wasn't worried, you know. That was the last time I spoke to her.
7:30 came and went, and Tongo didn't turn up as arranged.
When he said it was late, we just had another drink and just carried on chatting.
Tongo claims Shreen Dewani became agitated at his being late. His lawyer goes further.
Dewani demanded to know what the hold-up was and insisted that the act be perpetrated and perpetrated that very day.
But this CCTV, never before made public, does not support that version of events. Shreen is pictured here, holding his phone to his left ear. Panorama can reveal this was the moment he spoke to Tongo, 7:45 p.m. He shows no sign of being agitated. Is it really credible that Shreen insisted Annie was to be killed that night, when she sat right next to him? The Dewanis left the bar and waited in the lobby for Tongo to arrive.
But look at that. He leans over and pecks her on the cheek. And she seems to... Interesting body language. Almost she pulls away and then they put their heads together very sweetly. Is he doing this for the cameras?
Shreen continues to take pictures of Annie. Is this what a murderer does? He takes pictures of his wife before he has her killed. And as we'll see, there are other telling moments of the couple together. Side by side, the Dewanis leave the Cape Grace lobby to join Tongo.
He texted just before 8 to say, I'm outside, and he didn't say why he was late.
Annie gets into the car in which her life will shortly end. Tongo first took the couple on a nighttime tour of Cape Town, showing them a view where they could see the entire city. Before heading towards a restaurant 27 miles away from the Cape Grace, for a 9:30 reservation. The route to the restaurant in a town called Somerset West is flanked either side by townships, to where Tongo diverted.
Zola said he wanted to show us Mazzoli's, which was this restaurant where Jamie Oliver had been and had become famous.
Did he mention that it might be dangerous at all, or that it might be it was in a township, it was in a difficult area?
No.
This is the typical Saturday night party scene right outside Mazzoli's in Guguletu township.
One thing you're told in this country is you do not go into the township at night as a tourist. You just don't do it.
Zola Tongo's taxi was to be attacked by Kwabe and Umgeni here, just down the road from Mazzoli's. But because he was running late, the hijackers were not there. Tongo instead left Guguletu and headed for the restaurant the couple had booked in Somerset West.
Kwabe called me and confirmed that him and Umgeni had just missed me when I drove into Guguletu.
Mid-journey, according to Shrien, the Dewanis changed their minds about where they wanted to eat. Tongo diverted to the seafront in Somerset West.
We had a short walk because it was a nice warm evening and there was, a large number of people flying kites on the beach.
Which doesn't seem to make any sense.
They were here at roughly this time, and it's windy, but as you can see, it's pitch black. So it does raise the question why on earth Shrien Dewani would say that he was here watching people fly kites.
Tongo is pictured here escorting the Dewanis into Surfside, a budget seafood restaurant.
Prior to entering the restaurant, Shrien Dewani asked me what was happening, and he said he wanted to have the job done that night.
While the couple were having dinner, Zola Tongo rescheduled the hijack.
Zola contacted me and told me that the husband wanted his wife killed that same night.
Kwabe confirmed that they would be waiting at their previously agreed location.
The couple were in Surfside less than 1 hour.
We ate fairly quickly and decided to head back into town. I called Zola to come back and pick us up, so we came outside the restaurant and he was waiting.
Tongo says the call was more sinister.
Shrien Dewani contacted me and wanted to know if I had arranged for the guys. I confirmed to Shrien Dewani that everything had been arranged.
These are the last known pictures of Annie Dewani alive. The couple left Surfside at 10:24 p.m. One of Tongo's most damaging allegations against Shrien Dewani comes from this next leg of the journey.
While driving, I sent a text to Shrien Dewani not to forget about the money. He answered by way of a text message that the money was in an envelope in the pouch behind the front passenger seat.
If what Tongo says is true, what was the money for? And why would Shrien be texting Tongo with Annie beside him in the car? Tongo's lawyer has never been shown the actual texts, but says he did see electronic signatures which reveal there was an exchange of texts between the two men. Do South African police have the wording of these alleged text messages, or are they relying on Tongo's say-so? Shrien says Tongo offered to take them to a place where they could watch African dancing.
I was quite keen to go straight back, but she had a habit of calling me boring, so kind of succumbed to the need to go out. We had no reason to distrust him at all.
You do not feel that Annie would have asked to go?
Absolutely not.
Because she would have known it would be unsafe?
She would. Not the way she was dressed. She would not go to places like that.
Shrien's recollection of this time is of himself and Annie being distracted, looking through their honeymoon pictures.
We were sat in the back of the car looking through all our photographs. The driver then suggested that we drive through one of the township areas.
For the second time that night, Tongo drove the couple into Guguletu township,
where Kwabe and Mungeni were waiting.
The first Shrien says he knew of the hijack was when a man started banging a pistol on the taxi's windscreen.
I was instructed to open the doors. Kwabe got in at the driver's side and Mungeni got in at the back.
I grabbed Annie and almost covered her and held her tight because she was starting to cry.
Shrien says Annie hid her wedding and engagement rings in the gap between the car seats where they were later found by police.
Her wedding rings, especially her engagement ring, was the most valuable thing to her in the world. She absolutely loved it. Giving it to her was the best moment of my life.
The rings not being stolen make Annie's family suspicious.
If it was robbery, the rings weren't stolen. Those expensive rings, £25,000 worth rings, wasn't stolen. That didn't make sense.
Shrien says he did, though, hand over around 4,000 rand in cash, roughly £400. Why he was carrying so much has not been explained. He says the gunman became threatening on discovering his hidden mobile phone.
Lied to me again, I'm going to shoot you, was the words he used. He had no hesitation in what he was saying or doing. He was very sure of his actions.
Kwabe travelled for a short distance before he stopped.
Zola Tongo was then ejected from his own taxi right outside Guguletu police barracks. The gunman took his mobile phone. Why, if he was in on the plot, was Shrien Dewani not thrown out at the same time?
Tongo informed us that the money was behind the front passenger seat.
As the gunman drove off into the night, Tongo used the phone at the barracks to alert local police, though he did not call South Africa's equivalent of 999, buying his accomplices extra time.
Annie had been getting increasingly more hysterical as the driving went on. She just wouldn't stop saying to them that we are on honeymoon, let us go, we don't have anything.
The gunman drove into the darkness of their home turf, Khayelitsha Township.
They were saying to me, make her shut up, or we will shoot.
Around half an hour after the car was first hijacked, it was Shrien's turn to leave.
I was holding on to her and they prized us apart, and they held a gun to my head and said, either you leave or we'll shoot you.
Shrien says the back door would not open, and he was eventually forced out of the window, begging the gunman to let Annie go as well. For Annie's family, Shrien's explanation is suspicious. The rear window of a Volkswagen Charan only opens 34 centimetres.
I've tried it.
You tried it?
I tried it.
With a car window that was open the same distance?
Yes, same car. I'm not that big, but I had pain in my shoulders, enormous pain. My shoes couldn't come out. I dropped them off in the car. It's impossible.
So was Shrien forced out of the vehicle here, or did he leave of his own volition? This is what the driver Kwabe told police following his arrest shortly after Annie's death. It has never before been made public.
We ordered the husband out of the car.
3 months later, this version was made public by police and prosecutors.
We let the husband out of the vehicle.
Ordered or let, it's just a word. But one makes Shrien Dewani a victim and the other a murderer. So why the change? Unlike Tongo, who was dropped off at a police barracks, Shrien was now alone in a township notorious locally for gun violence.
The car just sped off, and my heart was racing. The first thing I did was try and shout for help.
Luckily for Shrien, help was at hand. Simbonile Matakosi, a local government auditor, was just arriving home in his car.
I was about to pull in and park inside the garage there, so he moved down there into closer to me, so he could ask me to take him to the police station.
The vast sprawl of Khayelitsha Township is crisscrossed with a network of police stations. Simbonile called his cousin, an officer based nearby.
He was pacing up and down the road here in panic, and he was sort of like shaking. I thought he was crying.
He says Shrien became frantic the police were taking so long to arrive. Did his behavior that night seem authentic?
When I found out that he was accused, I was a bit surprised because when he told me his story that night, I believed him and I thought what he was saying, it was all truth and it was genuine.
Simbonile Matakosi and his wife are the only independent eyewitnesses to gauge Shrien's immediate reaction to the hijack.
I don't think this guy had killed his wife, you know.
While Shrien was waiting for police to arrive, Annie may already have been dead. He says he still believed she would survive.
They said that they didn't want to hurt her, so where were they going to leave her?
I heard a shot go off in the back of the vehicle, and Mingeni was still holding the female passenger at gunpoint. I was scared and nervous, and I parked the vehicle on the side of the road.
This is where the car came to a halt.
And it was here Annie's life ended.
Why kill only the girl? There's something fishy here.
We've spoken to an eyewitness who saw the killers dump Tongo's taxi, never imagining a woman had just been shot.
Two men emerged from the vehicle. They walked towards this street corner. One of them then doubled back, went back to the vehicle, opened the door and pulled out a brown paper envelope. But they were both described as very relaxed as they walked towards the witness here on this street corner, even saying to the person, "How are you?" before disappearing off down that street.
The witness has never been questioned by police, yet their evidence, if accurate, seems to support the prosecution case. So what was in that brown paper envelope? And had Shrien left it for these calm, casual killers? When first interviewed by police, the driver, Kwabe, told detectives Annie's death had been accidental.
We had not planned to kill the deceased, but rather planned to con Zola by just dumping the lady and the car and taking the money Zola would have left in the car for us.
Since her murder, South African police have consistently stated that Annie Dewani was killed by a single gunshot wound to the neck. Combined with the findings that Annie was not sexually assaulted, it seems clear-cut. This was a cold-blooded execution. But Panorama has seen the post-mortem report, and it reveals that the South African police's public description of the fatal injury is incomplete.
We've learnt the 9mm bullet first passed through Annie's left hand before entering her chest. It then travelled up through her body, causing fatal injuries to her neck before leaving what was called an irregular gunshot exit wound. So it was not a straightforward execution shot to the neck. It raises questions. Could Annie have been trying to escape or fight off her attacker when she was shot? When arrested, Mungeni told police the gun fired as Annie's bag was grabbed. After a fruitless search for Annie, police took Shrien back to the Cape Grace Hotel. These pictures were captured at just after 1 in the morning. Shrien appears upset. He called Annie's father during these early hours.
Shrien said, "Dad, I'm sorry I could not take care of Annie." At that time, it wasn't confirmed she was dead. But I told him straight away, don't say that. She's not dead yet.
Shrien emerged from their room holding a tissue.
And just look at the expression there. Now, is that a man who has commissioned the murder of his wife? Or is that a man in shock because he simply does not know what has just happened and where has she gone?
Shrien was told Annie's body had been discovered on Sunday morning. He says he started screaming hysterically. Tongo was nearby.
When we found out that Annie had been shot, he started to cry as well when everyone was coming to console me, and he was one of those people.
Tongo was at the hotel to help police with photo fits of the men he said had taken Annie. Annie's father was given the terrible news while en route to South Africa.
The flight was a nightmare.
Because you knew there was no hope?
I knew Annie was dead. It's the worst thing I have ever experienced in my life.
Two days later, hours before Shrien left South Africa with Annie's body, he had one final meeting with Zola Robert Tongo at the Cape Grace. Tongo, seen here in white, was at the time still a robbery victim, a witness, not a suspect.
I met up with Shrien Diwani at the hotel, where I received a 1,000 rand payment for my role in orchestrating the murder, robbery and kidnapping of the deceased.
Was this payment, as Tongo claims, for his part in Annie's murder, or cash for the innocent services of a tour guide? Shrien, holding a white plastic bag, met Tongo in the lobby and then disappeared from view into the Cape Grace's internet room.
It is one of the few public places in the hotel where there is no CCTV. Now, if he was simply paying Tongo as a tour guide, why did Shrien bring him in here to give him the cash?
They were in the room together just over a minute. Shrien leaves first, without the white plastic bag. Tongo, 10 seconds later.
Zola emerges with the plastic bag. The plastic bag is secreted under his shirt. He goes into the gents.
But Panorama can reveal the secret meeting wasn't so secret after all. This mystery couple went in before them and exited after both men had left. So the handover took place in front of witnesses. Have police spoken to them? Zola Tongo left the hotel with the bag in clear view. South African prosecutors maintained the taxi driver was in severe financial difficulties at the time, and Shrien Diwani exploited this.
He was supporting his mom, in addition to having his own expenses, as well as his teenage sister. I suppose temptation got the better of him.
Still, 1,000 rand, around about £90, doesn't sound very tempting. His former boss is perplexed.
What baffles me most about this case is the fact that Robert has taken such a big risk for 1,000 rand. His monthly earnings was 10 to 15 times that amount. To kill someone for 1,000 rand, it just doesn't make sense at all.
And what happened to the 5,000 rand fee Tongo claims was agreed with Shrien Diwani? In a follow-up statement, Zola has claimed he counted the money and then went looking for Shrien when he realized he'd been shortchanged. The CCTV reveals that to be untrue. Tongo handed himself in to police 6 days after Annie's body was found. The gunman and the driver had already been arrested. Both have since retracted their confessions, saying they were beaten out of them. They plan to plead not guilty at their trial. Kwabe's lawyer says his client was forced to make a confession, scripted to police instructions.
The beating was continuous. They would not let him go without making a statement. I have done a lot of cases where police have assaulted clients, so it is almost like business as usual for the police to do that.
Police deny beating the men. Mungeni struggles to get in and out of court, having undergone surgery on a brain tumour, diagnosed while awaiting trial. The pair have now been on remand for 16 months, with no trial date in sight, their confessions doing them no favours. Unlike Tongo, the day after his arrest, and having been shown the evidence against him by police, including CCTV material, the taxi driver cut a deal to plead guilty. In return for testifying against Shrien Diwani, Tongo was given 7 years off a 25-year sentence, and he could be free in just 8. Annie's father had to agree to Tongo's plea bargain.
The prosecutor asked me, Vinod, do you approve of this if he tells the truth? I said, yes, I want to know the truth. What happened to my Annie?
Monde Umblombo, the middleman without whom the murder could not have happened, has secured the best deal of all. By giving evidence for the prosecution, he's escaped scot-free, without a stain on his character.
Why are the South Africans happy to offer plea bargains and immunity from prosecution to those who have admitted their involvement in Annie's murder? Why are they apparently willing to overlook inconsistencies in the evidence? And why are they so certain that Shrien Diwani is guilty without having ever interviewed him as a suspect, despite repeated opportunities to do so?
Neither the police nor the prosecuting authorities would talk to us ahead of any trial. South Africa's Justice Minister is, however, adamant the courts will guarantee his country's judicial integrity.
Our courts are independent and are subject to the Constitution and the law. So, as far as we are concerned, Mr. Diwani, if he comes before a competent court in South Africa, will receive a fair trial.
But according to some, it's not the courts that are barriers to a fair trial, but the police and prosecutors.
I have my trust in the judges of this country. I have little trust with the police.
The objectivity is a major problem, and I've often seen that they take sides. There is not enough attention spent investigating right at the beginning to see who is actually telling the truth.
Within a week of Annie's death, with rumours swirling around he was responsible, Shreen Diwani was adamant he didn't kill his wife.
Any insinuation that I had anything to do with this is absurd. What does anyone gain from killing someone they've just married and trying to set up a life with?
Still battling mental illnesses, Shreen Diwani vows to clear his name. His family told Panorama he will return to South Africa when he's well enough, but until then will fight a ruling by a British court that it's in the public interest he be extradited. They say his personal safety is at risk. This doesn't cut any ice with the man Shreen once called Dad.
You can't be in a mental hospital and clear your name. I mean, you have to go to South Africa. And you say you are innocent. You have nothing to do with this. Then why don't you go?
Because there are questions for Shreen Diwani too. Why cash up so much money in the last days of their honeymoon? And if, as Tongo claims, the two men exchanged texts with Annie in the car, what was it they didn't want her to know? And did Shreen Diwani leave an envelope of cash in the taxi? If so, what was that money for? At the Cape Grace, there were some key witnesses. The CCTV cameras. On the night Annie died, do they capture what no one else seems to have seen? Is this the truth about the couple's relationship? Kisses. Lots of them. Were the Diwanis, after all, just a honeymoon couple like any other? Whatever the truth of this case, there is no doubt about its impact. A bride dead, her husband broken, two families destroyed.